Hi, World Lit. So I want to give some feedback on this response assignment. And first, I just want to share I'm so excited with the work that we are seeing in this response assignment, partially because the last couple of weeks I have felt like sort of an imaginary teacher who has an imaginary class of just like invisible people. And it's nice to see you like actually interacting online. We hope that you're feeling a little more connected to your classmates after this assignment. I know that Mr. Watkins and I are. But also, we just are really loving the interpretation work that we're seeing on this assignment, and we want to give you some feedback on how to use some of that work that you're doing here and apply it to your exit ticket, which is a race right. Okay, so the race right that you're focusing on this week is centered on the question, what do you think of this dad, essentially, right? So you're interpreting the character of the dad and you're saying essentially like, what is your impression of him? What are the adjectives that you would use to describe him and why? Okay. And all of this work is not just for nothing. It was meant to help prepare you for that exit ticket. So we want to see the same like beautiful interpretation that we're seeing here on that exit ticket. Okay. So, we want to comment on some themes that are emerging that can help you out with that exit ticket. So, I'm going to pull up some of these assignments. Okay. So, first of all, if you take a look at our slide deck, right? And really, if you take a look at all of this stuff, but starting on this slide deck, notice how all of these slides are very, 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 very different, right? I think like this really speaks to the idea that this father character is complex. He is not just this thing or that thing. He is not just positive or negative. He's a complex character with many layers. And I think a strong answer for your exit ticket is going to address that, right? So, for example, like I see Anai talked about how he's aggressive. I agree. Nicole talked about how he's protective. I also agree, right? So a strong answer is going to get in the middle of that, right? It's going to say like, although he is aggressive, he also is protective, right? Don't just copy that answer, use your own adjectives. And we would really encourage you to like use some like high level 10th grade adjectives in your response, okay? As you're thinking about your answer, we really, really strongly recommend checking out the Flipgrid board. I think like all of these discussions, notice like you've got some great classmate responses here, show that same level of complexity. I would say this is a great one to look at, this first conversation where we're talking about what do you think of the character Pops. And like in your classmates' responses, you're gonna see that this character is like trying to like put forward like a certain image, but the reality might be really different, right? Like, or he might be trying to be really tough, but he's actually pretty vulnerable, right? So I think I would really encourage you to look at some of these videos before you craft your response, okay? So I think like those are two great places to look as you're thinking about the answer for your RACE paragraph. As you think about the explanation, which is where a lot of people lose points, I would push you to check out our annotations board. So first of all, I'm loving this annotations board. I think it's really cool. It's like we all get to write these cool things. And one thing that we're seeing all over this board is people zeroing in on some really specific lines and explaining really thoroughly why those lines make them feel a certain way. I'm going to call out one here on slide 6. So notice how Cecily says, this shows that the father is aggressive toward others. When the boys ask if they think that their dad will slug him, a very specific line, right? It suggests that their dad has probably gotten violent with others, right? So I think like one thing Cecily is doing really well there is like she's zeroing in on this very specific tiny detail and showing how it connects to her characterization of aggressive, right? So strong explanation is going to do that, okay? We also see that all over this written response document. I think Andy did a really nice job with that. Like he gives his quote, he starts to explain it. This tells us that the kids don't know what their father is talking about and never mention that. That probably leads them thinking. And then like where he goes in here, it never seems like the father is hopeless. Also his palms over his eyes. So these two like specific things he's like pulling back from the quote he referred to earlier, and he's explaining them more fully. So this is basically all just to say, as you are crafting your response, your race right, think about complex answers that get to all sides of this dad. And as you think about your explanation, think about zeroing in on specific details that support that, okay? And you've got these resources at your hand to be able to do the best race right you have ever done before. And we're really excited to see them. Okay, reach out with questions. You got this.